The night Umwahia swallowed Pastor Enoch whole was the night everything he built began to crumble. By day, he was the mighty shepherd of Grace Fountain Church, a man whose words could shake the hearts of thousands. His congregation worshipped him like a saint, hanging on every sermon, believing every tear he shed at the pulpit. But Pastor Enoch was a man of two faces. When darkness fell, so did his mask. In the heart of Umwahia, far from Umwahia where his church stood, he stepped out of his sleek black car. The streets buzzed with life, horns blaring, vendors shouting, music spilling from hidden corners. But he wasn't here for the noise. He was here for something else. The neon sign of Club Mirage flickered like a heartbeat in the dark. This was the place where nobody knew his name, where he could drown in the shadows without judgment. The bouncers nodded, recognizing his face but never questioning why a man dressed like a businessman came here every weekend. Inside, the air was thick with perfume, sweat, and secrets. Lights danced across bodies that moved like they were made of water, bending and twisting to the beat. Pastor Enoch sank into a leather seat at the back, his eyes scanning the room like a predator. And that's when he saw her. She moved through the crowd like she owned it, her hips swaying, her curves impossible to ignore. She wore a glittering mask, but he didn't need to see her whole face to know who she was. His heart nearly stopped. Elizabeth, the same Elizabeth who sang with the choir every Sunday morning, her voice soft and pure like an angel. The same Elizabeth who closed her eyes when she prayed, lifting her hands to heaven like she could touch the sky. But this wasn't the Elizabeth he knew. This Elizabeth wore danger like a second skin. She spotted him too, her eyes locking onto his. For a moment, he thought she would scream, that his secret life would be exposed right there on the dance floor. But instead, she smiled. A slow, wicked smile that sent chills down his spine. Before he could think, she walked over to him, her steps smooth and confident. She climbed onto his lap without a word, her body moving to the rhythm, her warmth pressing against him. Pastor Enoch felt his heart race, his mind screaming at him to stop, to push her away, but his body refused to listen. But when he reached out to touch her, she slapped his hand away. Her eyes sparkled with something he couldn't understand. Was it anger, or was it a game? "You don't get to touch," she whispered, her voice like honey and poison mixed together. Then, just as quickly as she came, she was gone, swallowed by the crowd. Pastor Enoch sat there, stunned, his mind spinning. How could the holy Elizabeth, the one who sang about purity and light, be this woman? He couldn't sleep that night, and every Sunday after, when Elizabeth stood at the altar, singing with that same innocent face, Pastor Enoch's mind drifted back to the club, to her body, her smile, her scent. He wanted her, he needed her. But what he didn't know was that the woman he saw at the club wasn't Elizabeth at all. Sunday came, and Pastor Enoch stood at the altar, preparing to lead the service. The choir began to sing, their voices rising in harmony. And there she was, Sister Elizabeth, standing in the front row of the choir, her voice clear and strong. Her simple choir robe couldn't hide the gentle curve of her hips, the fullness of her chest as she sang. He looked at her, and his mind flashed back to the club, to the mask, to the dance. The contrast was so sharp, so confusingly exciting. Lost in his thoughts, the image of the masked dancer and the singing chorister merged in his mind. He imagined her moving like that right there, in front of everyone. A wave of heat washed over him. Suddenly, shockingly, he felt his body react. A warmth started low and spread quickly. His trousers felt tight. He looked down in a panic, his heart hammering against his ribs. Oh no, no, no. Not now, not here. The service was nearing its end. He was supposed to give the closing remarks, a powerful message to send the congregation home with God's word ringing in their ears. But standing there, feeling what was happening beneath his robe and trousers, he knew he couldn't. He couldn't stand there and talk about faith and holiness when his body was betraying him, making a mockery of everything he represented. Sweat trickled down his back, cold despite the heat flushing his face. He had to act fast. Thinking quickly, he leaned towards his wife, Sister Ada, who was sitting on the front row beside the pulpit. "Ada," he whispered urgently, his voice a little strained, I need you to do the closing prayer and remarks today." Sister Ada looked up at him, surprised. He rarely asked her to do this. "Is everything all right, Enoch?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. The congregation was starting to notice the hushed exchange. He straightened up, forcing a pious expression onto his face, trying desperately to look inspired, not embarrassed. He spoke into the microphone, his voice regaining some of its usual power, though a little shaky. "My beloved congregation," he began, clearing his throat. "Today, as I stand here, the Lord is speaking to me. A powerful revelation is descending upon my spirit. I feel his presence so strongly that any outward distraction would disrupt this sacred moment." He paused, looking around with wide, earnest eyes, trying to make it sound profound. "Therefore, in order that I might fully receive this divine message, I will ask my dear wife, Sister Ada, to step forward and deliver the closing prayer and bless us all before we depart." The Lord works in mysterious ways. A wave of murmurs went through the church. Sister Ada, though clearly bewildered, rose gracefully and came to the pulpit. Pastor Enoch quickly stepped back, sliding into the large, ornate chair behind him, making sure his robes draped properly over his lap. He kept his eyes fixed on the ceiling, pretending to be deep in prayer, while secretly just trying to control his breathing and wait for the offending problem to subside. He heard Sister Ada's clear voice begin the closing prayer, and he inwardly groaned. This was ridiculous, but at least nobody was pointing and staring. He just had to sit still and wait for it to be over. Later that week, Pastor Enoch saw Sister Elizabeth at a church meeting. He tried to casually bring up the subject of that night, hinting about seeing someone who looked like her in a place far away. He watched her face closely, expecting some sign of recognition, maybe a blush or a flicker of panic. But Sister Elizabeth just looked confused. "Pastor? Far away? I haven't been out of Umuahia in months," she said, her eyes innocent. "And I don't go to clubs. Is something wrong?" He tried to press subtly, mentioning the mask, the dance, the club's name. She just looked more bewildered, shaking her head. "I truly don't know what you're talking about, Pastor. Are you feeling all right?" He was stumped. Was it not her? But it looked exactly like her. The body, the eyes, it had to be her. Was she lying? Playing a game? The confusion gnawed at him. He couldn't understand why she would pretend not to know. It made him think about that club again, the one where he saw her. He decided he had to go back. Maybe he could find her there again, and this time he'd get answers. He picked another night, put on his going-out clothes, and drove the long distance back to the town and the club. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. What if she wasn't there? What if she was, and she still denied it? He found the club, paid the entrance fee, and stepped inside. The familiar music and atmosphere washed over him. He scanned the room, his eyes searching for the small stage, the masked dancer. And then he saw her. She was there again, on the stage, moving with the same captivating grace. She wore a different mask tonight, but there was no mistaking the figure beneath the shimmering outfit. It was her, or the woman he believed was Sister Elizabeth. This time, when she finished her set, he made sure he was ready. He approached her as she stepped off the stage, trying to look cool and confident. "Excuse me," he said, his voice a little louder than he intended over the music. She turned, her masked face tilted slightly. "You were here the other night, weren't you?" he asked, a smile spreading across his face. She paused, looking at him for a moment. Then a slow, knowing smile appeared beneath the edge of her mask. "Maybe," she purred, her voice low and husky, completely unlike Sister Elizabeth's sweet singing voice. "You looked like you enjoyed the show." This wasn't the confused denial he got from Sister Elizabeth. This woman was playing along. He felt a thrill go through him. "I did," he said, stepping closer. "Very much. You have an incredible way of moving." She laughed softly. "It's what I do." He knew this was his chance. He had to get her number, get to know this side of her. "Listen," he said, "I'd really like to see you again. Maybe outside of this place? Talk properly." She seemed to consider it for a moment, her masked gaze lingering on him. Then, with a shrug, she pulled out a small phone. "Okay," she said, "give me your number." They started seeing each other. Not often, because he had to travel far and be careful. They met in quiet restaurants in other towns, took walks in parks where they wouldn't be recognized. He still believed she was Sister Elizabeth, just a version of her that came alive at night. He found himself drawn to this woman's confidence, her different energy. She was funny, sharp, and seemed genuinely interested in him, or the version of himself he presented outside of his church life. They talked for hours, laughing easily. He felt a connection with her, a dangerous, exhilarating connection that was miles away from his life as Pastor Enoch of Umwahia. He didn't know her real name. She told him to call her Abigail. It was a simple name, easy to remember. Abigail. She seemed to enjoy their time together too. She asked him about his life, though he kept the church details vague, just saying he worked in a demanding public role. She was mysterious about her own life, never talking about family or where she lived. It just added to her allure. He was falling fast into something he knew he shouldn't. One evening, after a lovely dinner in a town hours away, Pastor Enoch drove Abigail back towards the general direction she said she lived. They were talking easily, the car filled with comfortable silence between bursts of laughter. He felt happy, lighter than he had in a long time. He still hadn't figured out how Abigail fit with Sister Elizabeth. But honestly, he was enjoying the mystery too much to push too hard for answers. He just knew he wanted to spend more time with her. What Pastor Enoch didn't know was that Abigail wasn't just some mysterious woman who happened to look exactly like his chorister and worked in a club. He didn't know Abigail had been hired for a very specific, very dangerous job. She wasn't interested in his charm or his company for real. Her smiles, her laughter, her interest, it was all part of the plan. A plan set in motion by a powerful, unseen figure who had a long-standing grudge against Pastor Enoch. This figure, a man known only as the boss, had been wronged by Pastor Enoch years ago in a business deal that went sour. Enoch, using cunning and questionable tactics, had swindled the boss out of a significant amount of money. The boss was not a man who forgot or forgave. He had been waiting, watching Pastor Enoch's rise, his seemingly perfect life, his wealth, and he had found the perfect way to strike back. He learned about Pastor Enoch's hidden life, his weakness for women, his secret club visits. And then he found Abigail. Abigail was skilled, resourceful, and needed money. The boss offered her a lot of it. Her job was simple, though dangerous. Get close to Pastor Enoch, find a way into his home, and steal something very valuable. A hardware wallet hidden somewhere safe in his house. This wallet contained a fortune $30 million worth of Bitcoin. The boss wanted to ruin Enoch, take his wealth, and perhaps expose his hypocrisy. Abigail was the perfect tool, and the fact that she looked exactly like his devoted chorister, that was a coincidence. A cruel twist of fate that the boss found quite amusing. Abigail, as Pastor Enoch knew her, had spent their dates gathering information, subtly asking questions about his life, his home, his routines, without arousing suspicion. The agency the boss ran had also done its homework, learning about the safe in his house. Now it was time.